Welcome to another episode of Timber Tuesday. Today's video is a little twist. I'm doing some wood decor dupes. Hi there, my name is Sandra and you're watching Christmas at the Schwowin's Nest. Welcome to my channel. I honestly have my mind blown whenever I see things online, especially on Wayfair. They're so expensive. This nativity is 15 inches by 16 inches high, and it's listed for $137. I cannot believe that some wood and metal decor would cost this much. This is a 10 by 10 square of MDF. It is plain because that's what I can pick up at my local Dollarama store, but this is the same thickness as most of the signs that you can get from the Dollar Tree. So if you want to grab one of those, you can just flip it around and use the back. The inspiration for the roof is a little bit off center, just like the Wayfair one. So that's what I'm duplicating here. And I'm going to be using a ruler that has a metal edge on it that will prevent me from cutting into my ruler because sometimes I get a little bit too overexcited with my utility knife. I'm going to score this a little bit a few times just to get a groove in there, and then I can move the ruler away and continue scoring until I can snap it off and it gets to be a nice clean cut. Looking at the description nativity, it did say that it was using rustic barnwood and different pieces, but I'm going to duplicate that just using some cardstock in different shades and styles of wood. I'm just going to be cutting them out about 1.5 inches wide. I've already cut them to the width of what I need, and I'm going to use 3 of each. You can use any glue you like to attach these pieces of cardstock to your board. I'm just going to use a regular glue stick, and I'm just going to be very generous with how much I put on. I'm going to start with this dark brown one, then I'm going to go with the grayish color, and then another brown one, and then I'm just going to repeat the pattern until I get to the top. I always wait for the glue stick to dry a little bit, and I make sure to press it down really well before I use my knife to just trim off the edges. I'm going to do the same thing with these garden stakes. These are going to become my 2 roof pieces. I'm going to cover both sides with some pieces of the paper. I'll repeat this process again to make 2 sides for the stable. This is a piece of MDF as well, but this is almost, I think it's about 5/8 of an inch. It's quite thick, and this is something that I had cut previously using my miter saw. I'm going to just give this a whitewashed effect with some white acrylic paint. I'm just going to go over it very roughly and make sure that some of that brown underneath peeks through. I'm going to use hot glue to assemble everything together. And first I'm going to do the 2 pieces of the roof, and then I'll add on the sides. I decided to put the roof pieces and the side pieces flush with the back of the stable, just because then I'll have a really nice overhang on the top and the sides. I've got the stable fully assembled, so now I'm just going to use hot glue and glue it right onto the base. I used my Cricut Explorer with a deep cut blade to cut out these boxes. So these are shapes that I used gift boxes that came from the Dollar Tree. I just used the plain white bottom, and I cut 2 of each because I wanted to glue them together, make them a little bit thicker so they're not quite so flimsy. I will leave the free printable for all of my little people and animals here on my website. The link for that is down in my description box. I'm going to use these bamboo sticks. They're about the same width and thickness as regular popsicle sticks. And gluing them on the back is just going to give this cardboard a little extra support because of course I'm going to need these to stand up. When it comes to the animals, I'm going to have to trim the piece lengthwise as well, so it is a little skinnier so I can put it on their little legs. So you'll see me here, I'm just going to take a measurement here and then snip off what I need for the length, but I'm also going to then just take this one and snip it in half lengthwise. Now that it's skinnier, I'll be able to glue them in place, and that will give my little donkey some extra support too. These figures in the inspiration were made from metal, so I'm just going to use some gray paint. I believe this is Parisian Gray by Folk Art Home Decor Chalk Paint. I'm just going to give everything one coat. Then I'm going to take my silver acrylic paint and a makeup sponge and just dab all over it to give it a really rough galvanized look. I like to pounce with the makeup sponge, but I turn it in different ways so the square edges that you see are in different directions, and that just really helps to make it look more realistic. I wanted my characters to have even more support, so I'm taking just a small piece, probably not quite an inch, of that stick that I used before. The popsicle sticks will work fine for this as well. A little bit of hot glue, and then I'm gluing it on so it is a support piece for the back. So basically, it's like an easel back. Now it's time for assembly. I'm going to put glue on that little easel back. This is the baby Jesus in his cradle. And I'm going to just tuck it right into the center. Make sure that that little kickstand at the back is touching down, and that will hold it in place. Look at how cute. I'm going to continue adding all of them: Joseph, Mary, the donkey, and the little lamb. Right here, I noticed that the lamb's little easel back or kickstand was way too long, so I just took my miter shears and cut it down so you wouldn't notice them as much. I think I did the same thing with the donkey. Yes, here we go. Just trimming off that little edge so they wouldn't stick out so far. The inspiration piece also had a star, so I'm just using those sticks again. I'm going to trim off the ends, put them into a point, and then just shape all of my pieces until I get the look of the star that I like. I'm going to use hot glue to glue them all together, and then they're going to get a coat of the silver acrylic paint. I'm going to skip the gray because I want more of just a shiny surface for the star. Once the star was dry, I glued it onto the peak of the stable, and this project is done. I'd like to give a quick thank you to all of my current subscribers. I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you happen to be a viewer and have not yet subscribed, I would love it if you could hit that red button too. This next project isn't that much money. It's only $28, but it's a string tree. It's a piece of wood, it's some twine, some nails, and I know I can dupe this for probably less than a buck. I already had this piece of scrap wood cut into a house shape. I know the inspiration is just a square, but I thought this would be really fun and I would be able to make a little bit of a taller tree this way. I'm giving it one really just rough coat of some white acrylic paint. Remember, when you're doing string art like this, you need to make sure that your nail is tall enough to accommodate the amount of layers you want to use. I'm using these 1-inch panel nails, and I think those will be enough. I'm banging them in probably so there's still about 3/4 of an inch sticking out, and I like to use my needle nose pliers to hang on to the nail so I don't accidentally smack my fingers. I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm not going to measure anything, but if you need to measure, go right ahead. You can even draw a little template for yourself if you need to. I like to hang on to the nail with my needle nose pliers. That prevents me from smacking my fingers, which I tend to do quite a bit lately. What I'm going to do is start with 4 across. The 4 in the center that I'm doing now will become the trunk of the tree. And then I'm just going to continue on adding nails in a tree design, so in a triangle, and going slightly above and in for each row. And here you can see the tree shape starting to come together. I'm leaving about a good inch, inch and a quarter maybe in between each of the rows and going in about a quarter of an inch each time. Once I got to the top, I just did one more nail for the top peak. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. I thought it would be really fun to have a little star at the top of the tree. So I'm going to be adding more nails. I'm going to do 2 of them sort of a little bit further down from the original peak of the tree. You can see me doing those here. Then I'm going to do another one a little further in. So I'm just going to try and in my head do the shape of a star. It ends up being sort of 2 arrows pointing at each other with an extra nail up at the top. It's hard to explain, but once you see the finished product, I think you'll get it. I will leave a template for this tree on my website under the free printables. The link for that is down in my description box. I'm starting off just using some thicker jute twine. And if you have some thinner twine, that would be fine too. I know the inspiration had green, but I didn't have a whole lot of green. I've got a little bit that I'm going to be adding later, but I decided to just start with the regular jute twine. I just started off going around in a square and then I'm going to start crisscrossing. And what I want to do is just push the twine down every time I go around the nail. I'm kind of pushing it down. And then I'm also going in the opposite direction. So you can kind of see me looping and then spinning it. It's really hard to describe. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Once I thought I had enough on the trunk, I started with the Christmas tree nails. I'm going to just go around, and then when I get to the other side, I'm going to go around it from the top and then bring it around the bottom and then cross over. So around the one on the left, around the one on the right, but bring it down and cross it over. It really doesn't matter what type of design you want to do. This is just how I happened to start it, and I just continued on with it because I liked the look of it. Once I got to the top nail, I just looped it around once and then started going in the opposite direction. So now I'm just going to be looping around the right-hand side, which is the bottom of what you can see. And here you can see me trying to figure out which way to go. So I'm going to go around the bottom and then cross it over. Loop around that nail, go around the bottom of the top nail, and then loop that across and down. Once I was done with this row, I repeated the first one more time. So I had 3 layers of jute twine on the tree. Once I got to the top of the third one, I trimmed off the twine and hot glued the end in place. I've got some light green hemp cord that came from the Dollar Tree in the springtime, and it was part of my stash, so I just decided to use it just to bring a little bit of pop of color to this rustic tree. I'm making just a regular loop, and then I'm going to just hook it onto that first knot there, tie it into a nice knot, making sure that it's really nice and snug, and then trimming off the excess. I'm going to go up all the way once and then come back down with the green and then trim it and hot glue it down at the bottom. Here's how my tree looks so far. I really like it. It's a little different than the inspiration, but I think it's a little more colorful, even though it's still on the rustic side. Now I'm going to work on the star, and I decided to use this sort of off-white and red baker's twine. This is something that I picked up at Michael's at the beginning of the Christmas season. I'm going to start by tying a knot on the top nail, and then I'm just going to do the best I can to make sure I get a star shape. I wanted to make sure that this would be nice and secure, so I really wrapped it all the way around each nail. So I went full circle in each nail, changed my direction, and then went to the next area. So I'm going down on an angle, in towards the center, out towards the bottom point, then around the top of the Christmas tree, down to the next point, and then again into the center more, wrapping it around, pushing it down with my fingernail to make sure I have enough space. Here I'm figuring out which direction I need to go based on what the other side is, and then back up to the top. I did this a couple more times, and then I crisscrossed a little bit to make the star a little bit more interesting. Well, I still wasn't done with my colors. I decided to grab some of this really thin white hemp rope, and I decided to go all the way around once with everything, and that just gave it a little bit more of a brighter look. I really love how this turned out, and if you try some string art, let me know how it goes. I'd love to see it. It was a little tricky because I'd never done this before, but I kind of figured it out as I went along. Once I got to the top, I thought it would be fun to change direction and sort of make the tree look like it has triangles on it to make it look like a real tree. I'm just taking the white and I'm actually going in the opposite direction now than the way I went up. And I really love how this turned out. It's again different from the inspiration, but I'm just putting my own spin on it. For the last detail, I'm taking some of the red and off-white or creamy colored or rustic colored baker's twine, and I'm just tying a little double knot. I'm trimming off the little ends of it, and then I'm going to hot glue it and make them look like little ornaments on the tree. I thought this was a really cute addition to the tree, and I really love how it turned out. I think I might be a little bit addicted to string art, so you might see some more coming in the near future. Let me know what you think of my first attempt. Here's the inspiration for my third project. I thought this was just so simple and rustic. It is a laser cutout tree, and I know those are expensive machines to have, so I totally understand the $70 price tag. However, that's not something that I would ever spend. I found this part of a drawer that I took apart in my stash. I loved the dovetailing effect on the bottom. It's just beautiful. I'm going to leave it this color because, again, I really like the color of it. I went to my Cricut again and cut out using the same type of gift box as my first project, this very simple tree. Now this is available on Pixabay.com as a free printable there, and I'll definitely have that available for you down in my description box. As well, I'll leave it on my website so you can get to that there as well. I'm just going to go ahead and use hot glue to glue this down, and any of the little limbs that need to be secured down, I will do that for them. I decided to leave the tree white because I think it's a really beautiful contrast to the color of this wood. Next, I'm going to take some of those garden stakes and just cut off two little thin pieces, and I'm going to glue those on top of this first tree and then glue the other tree on top of that. That's going to give it more of a three-dimensional look. It's not going to be exactly as the laser cut, but I think it comes pretty darn close. If you don't have a Cricut, I know cutting all of these little angles on this type of tree would be a little tricky, but you can definitely just use a more simple tree to get the same type of effect. I hope you enjoyed these wood Christmas decor dupes. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. That really gets me noticed more on YouTube and helps my channel grow. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button. That black arrow will show you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for watching and spending some of your time with me today. See you in the next one.